Maracanazo. So, to begin this video, a bit of background on the 1950 World Cup tournament. Unlike in other editions of the tournament, which conclude with a one-off final, the 1950 World Cup was determined by a final group stage where 4 teams played in a round-robin format. Brazil topped the group 1 point ahead of Uruguay going into the World Cup final match. Uruguay needed a win, while Brazil needed only to avoid defeat to become the world champions. Neither of the other 2 teams, Spain or Sweden, could finish first. The match was often regarded as the de facto final of the 1950 World Cup. In the final group stage, Brazil beat Sweden 7-1 and Spain 6-1 to top the group, whereas Uruguay struggled against both opponents. They drew 2-2 with Spain after being down 2-1, and they beat Sweden 3-2, with the winning goal for Uruguay coming just 5 minutes before the end of the game. Throughout the World Cup tournament, Brazil had played 5 matches and scored 23 goals, whereas Uruguay had struggled against some of their opponents throughout the tournament. As a result, Brazil were extremely confident going into the final, and there were newspapers and politicians declaring victory before the match had even begun. The 1950 World Cup tournament is the only version of the tournament to be played with a round-robin final, and as such, it is the only FIFA World Cup to date to not have a deciding knockout final. As it was the last game of the tournament and the result of the match directly determined the winner, the match has come to be commonly referred to as the final in official FIFA records. The specialised press and the general public were so confident of victory based on Brazil's almost indomitable form that they had already started declaring Brazil as the new world champions for days prior to the match. Newspapers such as the Gazeta Esportiva in Sao Paulo and O Mundo in Rio de Janeiro proclaimed victory the day before the match. Brazil had won their opening 2 games against Spain and Sweden with very successful attack-minded style of play. However, Uruguay had encountered difficulties, managing only a draw against Spain and a narrow victory over Sweden. The comparison of those results seemed to show that the Brazilians were set to defeat Uruguay easily, as they had defeated Spain and Sweden. Moreover, in the Copa America, also held in Brazil the previous year, the hosts had won by scoring 46 goals in just 8 matches. Ecuador were beaten 9-1, Bolivia 10-1, and the runners-up Paraguay were defeated by a margin of 7-0. Furthermore to that, Brazil beat Uruguay 5-1 in that tournament. Before the match, 22 gold medals were made with each of the Brazilian players' names imprinted on them, and the mayor of Rio de Janeiro, Angelo Mendes de Moraes, delivered a speech on the day of the game with a few words saying, "You players, who in less than a few hours will be hailed as champions, and by millions of compatriots, you, who have no rivals in this entire hemisphere, you, who will overcome any other competitor, you who I already salute as victors." A victory song, Brasil os Vencedores, Brazil the Victors, was also composed and practiced, ready to be played after the final. On the morning of the 16th of July 1950, the streets of Rio de Janeiro were bustling with activity. An improvised carnival was organised with thousands of signs celebrating the world title and chants of "Brazil must win." This spirit was maintained right up to the final minutes of the match, which filled the Maracana Stadium with a paid attendance of 173,850 people and an actual attendance of what some people claim to be 220,000. This is an all-time record attendance for a football match that is unlikely to be broken in an era where practically all high-profile matches are held in all-seater stadiums. Of course, with Uruguay, their preparations to the match are a lot more subdued, and on the day of the match, Brazilian newspaper O Mundo printed an early edition on the day of the final containing a photograph of Brazil with the caption, "These are the world champions." Disgusted with that, Uruguay's captain, Obdulio Varela, bought as many copies as he could, laid them on the bathroom floor, and encouraged his teammates to spit and urinate on the paper. In the moments prior to the match, coach Juan Lopez informed his team in Uruguay's dressing room that their best chance of surviving the powerful Brazilian offensive line would to be adopt a defensive strategy. After he left, Varela stood up and addressed the team, himself saying, "Little John is a good man, but today he is wrong. If we play defensively against Brazil, our fate will be no different from Spain or Sweden." Varela then delivered an emotional speech about how they should go against an all-odds opponent and not be intimidated by the fans or the opposing team. It is said that Varela said, "Muchachos, los de afuera son de palo. Que comience la función," which in English means, "Boys, outsiders are just stick doors. Let's start the show." In the match itself, Brazil, like they had done throughout the entire tournament, went straight on the front foot and attacked Uruguay throughout the opening half of the match. However, Uruguay stood firm. In the second half, however, an early goal through Friatze put Brazil 1-0 up in the 47th minute. Then in the 66th minute, Schiaffino for Uruguay scored, and then in the 79th minute, Alcides Gigia scored the winning goal for Uruguay. It's reported that after Gigia scored the goal in the 79th minute, the crowd was virtually stunned and remained silent for the rest of the additional 11 minutes plus added on time. When the final whistle blew, it was said that the stadium was filled with disturbing and traumatic absolute silence, except for the jubilant Uruguayan players and their delegation. At least 2 Brazilian fans committed suicide inside the stadium, and many more suicides were reported across the country in the following days. In Brazil, many newspapers and fans refused to accept the fact that they had been defeated, and famously, radio journalist Ari Barroso briefly retired. In attendance at the World Cup final was also Jules Rimet, who was the founder of the World Cup, and he presented the trophy to the Uruguayan captain. However, he had no victory speech planned for the Uruguayan team. He only had a speech and a congratulations for the Brazilian players, which he had wrote down in Portuguese before the match. It was also reported that Jules Rimet also told the Uruguayan players not to celebrate the victory inside the ground because it could incite riots or people spilling onto the pitch. The loss for Brazil was a devastating one for the country as well, and as I've just mentioned earlier in the video, the name of the match is often referred to as the Maracanazo, which in Spanish roughly translates to the Maracana smash. In Portuguese, it's called the Maracanazo, which is very similar spelling to the Spanish version, except that there's a C instead of a Z. In the aftermath of the final, 4 of the Brazilian players never played for Brazil again. That included the captain Augusto, Juvenal, Bigode and Chico never played for Brazil. The 22 gold medals were discarded and never seen again. And the already composed song Brasil os Vencedores was never performed. Brazil's white shirts with blue collars that were worn in the final game were, in the wake of the defeat, subject to criticism by the country's sports federation for being unpatriotic, with pressure mounting for the change in the colours. In 1953, and with the support of the Brazilian Sports Confederation, a competition was held by the newspaper Correio da Manhã to design a new outfit, with the rule that it must incorporate the colours of the national flag. The new Brazilian kit was first worn in March 1954 against Chile and has been used ever since and is globally recognised as Brazil's colours and kit. The term Phantom 50 was later used to refer to the fear that Brazilians in the Brazil national football team feel of the Uruguayan national football team due to the loss. Each time Brazil and Uruguay play at the Maracana Stadium, the theme resurfaces. In 1993, Brazil struggled to qualify for the FIFA World Cup, and the final match of the qualifying group stage was against Uruguay at the Maracana. However, on this occasion, Brazil won 2-0, with Romario getting both goals. When Brazil hosted the World Cup in 2014, the match was then referred by the Brazilian press in comparison to the 7-1 humiliation that Germany inflicted on Brazil in the 2014 tournament in Belo Horizonte. The game was subsequently known as the Minerazo, given it took place at the Mineirão Stadium and echoed the same sense of defeat as in 1950. The Brazilian press also saw that the 7-1 defeat to Germany was more of an embarrassment than to lose against Uruguay, as there was a much closer feel in the 1950 World Cup final compared to the 2014 semi-final. The Uruguayan player who scored the winning goal in 1950, Gigier, also stated himself that while both games were traumatic, they could not compare to the 1950 World Cup final as there was more at stake. Gigier was the last surviving player from the match. He died on the 16th of July 2015, exactly 65 years after scoring the decisive goal at the age of 88. So there you have it, everyone. That's the story of the Maracanazo. One of the biggest upsets, I think, in world football, and one of the biggest upsets, I think, in sport in general. Uruguay were up against it. Nobody gave him a chance. There was people making medals and celebrating, having carnivals before the match, saying Brazil's going to win. And Uruguay come out on top to win their second World Cup and their last as of 2022. But no doubt, Brazilians, every time that they hear the Maracanazo, they must shiver and shudder because it's a cause of national embarrassment. However, they did bounce back in 58 and 62. So this has been the history of football. I hope you enjoyed that video. If you did, let me know in the comment section below. Let me know if you'd like me to do some more World Cup videos like this. I mean, there's some great stories from past World Cups and some big upsets, some big scores. So if you like this type of content, let me know in the comment section below. I'll be doing some more videos this week, and of course I'll do a review of the match on Saturday between England and France, and I know that probably nobody's going to watch it. I'll probably get 50 views or something like that, but I'll do it anyway because England's my country and I love England and I want to see him win against France, hopefully. But anyways, everyone, I'll catch us all later in the next one. Tatty bye for now.